everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. I'm excited for you to meet our guest today. We're going to peel back the layers of all the things she's all about. So go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, tell us what you're all about.
Well, hi there. My name is Nellie Harden. Thank you for having me on the show. And wow, if I had to say one thing I'm all about, it is about building foundations of worth, esteem, and confidence in women, and especially young women today before they're launched out into the world. So that would be the title of my book if I had to write one about me and who I am right now. But I'm a girl. I grew up in the Midwest, and then now I live in a small little retired, if you will, old fishing village on the East Coast of the United States. And it is me and my husband and our four daughters, our four adolescent daughters, who are all between the ages of 15 and 20 now. So it is a lot. We are in the thick of life right now, if you will, with all things high school and even college. So, but yeah, so right now I am working with groups and individuals, all focused on bringing that foundation to young women today.
Oh my goodness. I love that because it's so necessary, especially today with social media and all the pressures that are on young women and young boys,
Yeah.
everyone, even adults are experiencing some of the pressures from all the things. So it's good that you're working towards that. I myself have five daughters. Oh, the oldest one's 27, the youngest one's 10.
Wow.
So I know
Wow.
exactly what it's like to raise young girls. And my goodness, they need so much support. So I'm glad you're doing
Yeah.
that. What got you started in wanting to be so interested in this field?
Well, my entire background is in biology and psychology, and I actually went into marine mammalogy. Was my career 1.0, if you will. But I started having my daughters, and as you know, then with five daughters, one after another, you're like, okay. Well, I had them all pretty close in age. They were only 4.5 years split between oldest and youngest. And so I started staying home, but then we had a health crisis in our own family that then led to us having to make some really big adjustments in how we live and the decisions we were making. And that health crisis was with my husband. So we almost lost him really early on. And I grew up. My dad died when I was one, and so it was harder growing up and different, if you will. It was just my mom and I, and she got remarried and had my brother and sister too. But I was living in this duality, if you will, because as an adult, I was almost losing my husband, having to make these changes, having all of these daughters, but I was also still living in a lot of my past as well. So, like I said, I grew up in, single mom, but when I left home, and I left home at 17 and moved 7 hours away from home, I really did not have a foundation of worth, esteem, or confidence at all in me. And I wouldn't have had the language or the understanding or know-how back then. But when a young woman, especially young men too, but I speak from a young woman or a woman's perspective. When a young woman is released out into the world, in contrast to being launched, but when they're released out into the world without that foundation, what we end up doing is chasing our worth, right? And you can look at it like a three-tiered cake, and that worth is that bottom tier. It's the most robust, and we start chasing it everywhere we can find it, through accolades, through school, through athletics, through relationships. And that can lead down to, more times than not, some really dark corridors, which is where I ended up, even within just a short time, within just 7-8 weeks of my freshman year of college. And it led down some really traumatic and dramatic roads that for the next several decades, actually. And so here I am as an adult, and I am, managing, and I'm raising these daughters. I'm also helping my husband, survive throughout the time. It was a cardiac condition he was dealing with. He's still here today, but and I was also dealing with what had happened in my past. And so all of that combined together created this perfect storm of purpose, if you will, of, okay, here I am. I'm raising my daughters to have this firm foundation because I didn't have it, and I know where that can go. And so I was healing and teaching down the same road, and I have been ever since. And so I mean, that's a snippet of how I got to where I am.
Wow. I love it when people take their pain and turn it into purpose. And it sounds like that's what you did. All of the
Yep.
things, the hard lessons you learned, you're like, how can I make sure my daughters never experience this? And then you've not just done that for your family, but others. And so what made you take it from, I'm going to instill this into my daughters, to let me help other people as well?
That was nothing short of a calling. It was, we had made some changes in our family and we had to learn how to communicate really early on. I mean, when my husband was in and out of the hospital, and coincidentally now we have done genetic testing and 3 out of the 4 of my daughters also have the same condition that he does too. So there's a lot, and it doesn't mean, that it will be bad. We didn't know that he had it. And so because we didn't know, we didn't prepare well. We didn't eat right and live right and things in order to help him the best, which we can now for our kids. But with that, I was making all these changes for our family, and I was sitting there one day and I was just called to say, okay, you've done this now for the last 4 or 5 years for your family. Now you need to go and help others too. Because when you're faced with a situation like that, it is, yes, of course, physical and habits that you need to change, but it's so much more mental. We had to learn how to communicate with one another. We had to learn how to communicate with our young kids, even though they were young. And so many times parents are like, oh, they're only 4, they're only 5, they don't get it, we'll keep them in the dark. But I did not want that to be the case with them, especially if we were going to face losing him like we were. And so we walked through everything together, the sticky parts, the hard parts, the joyous parts, and we were really able to celebrate and have the challenges together. And that just really brought this team mentality together. And I wanted to help other families be able to experience that on a physical, mental, spiritual, emotional level as well, no matter what they were going through.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
Absolutely. Having daughters myself and going through the teenage years and the adult years and all the things. I mean, I know navigating that path isn't easy. And I'm sure there's listeners out there that are saying, I want to do that. How do we do it? Cue us in on how we can do this for our families.
Well, it really comes down to, and this is what I was able to finally understand for myself, because I was going to speaker after speaker and I was listening to all these people, and what I heard on Wednesday night was different than what I heard, and in fact counter to what I heard on Thursday night. And then Friday night I would listen to somebody else and I was like, well, that might work for one or two of my kids, but it's certainly not going to work for this one and that one, right? And so what I was able to do was to build a framework that can work for every single child, parent, woman, but have a different personalized, customized result for each and every single one of us, because we're all made different, right? But what we need to know is, what do I put into this? How do I make sure that they know? Worth, for example, has 5 pillars. It is, how are they seen and heard and feel loved and belong and have purpose, right? My 4 daughters, that's going to be different for every single one of them. But I know that all 4 of them need all 5 of those pillars filled. And so really finding the framework and customizing it for them, which takes a lot of one-on-one time. And parenting is not for the faint of heart, right? You can go through parenting in survival mode and get to the end and say, oh, they graduated, they're good, check the box, kick them out. Or you can raise a person up. And that is really what I'm looking to do and help others do as well.
Yes, and you're right. It is very difficult because they're all so different. Of all 5 of our daughters, every one of them has their own personality and their own
Yeah.
way of thinking. And, there is, like you said, there's no blanket way to be like, oh, I'm going to teach y'all all confidence. It doesn't work that way. And it's one person might, take it in what you're saying one way, and then the other child might take it in totally different. So it's got to be hard to navigate. What is one of the big things that you've learned over the years of you trying to, perfect the system that you've had?
It's really just about having that one-on-one time. So I think parents having one-on-one time individually with their kids on a consistent basis is one of the biggest tools that you can use as a parent. So, I have 4 kids. So, every week, 2 days a week, I take 2 of them and my husband takes 2 of them. The next week we switch. So my kids, from their perspective, they know that every, say, Monday at 8:00, I'm either with mom or dad for, 30 to 45 minutes. And we're talking, and it's not just, hey, so what's going on in your life? Tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets, right? It's actually about connecting. It's about, what's going on? Oh, tell me what you're interested in right now, and reciprocating, so that you are also, telling them about you and who you are. And that is such a special connection that you can have with them. And it's not, this hierarchy of parents up here and kids down here. It's more of a team mentality where parents are the team leaders, but we all work together here. And I want to know you and pour into you. And when you do this, there's so many times that your kids can pour into you and give you wisdom too, that they don't get a lot of credit for sometimes out in the world, but they are chock full of wisdom and funny anecdotes and all the things. And so have that time. And when you do, what I've learned is, this is how I need to discipline, Trinity is one of my daughters. This is how I need to discipline Lana. If I give one of them this look, they're going to do this. If I give the other one this look, they're not going to care, right? And so just getting to know them and what they need has been the biggest thing to propel me forward and use this framework of worth, esteem, and confidence.
I love that. And I think that's a really good point, is to take the time to get to know the human being each of them are individually, because they are so individual. So have you ever experienced where one of your teenagers are like, I don't want to hang out with you right now, mom, or I don't want it 30 minutes on a Monday? Have you ever had that before, or seen other families with that issue?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you do?
We say, well, this is what we're doing. And so what I will admit, what I usually run into with that, especially with, so I have twins in the middle. And the twins are polar. I mean, all 4 of mine, I call them 4 corners of a square, but the twins are like the diagonals, they're so different. And I'll be like, oh, it's, one-on-one time tonight. And they're usually very excited about it, unless they haven't had a chance to clean their room that day. And they're like, give me 5 minutes. So they go up and they do that. But there's also times when maybe we've had an altercation of some kind that day, or they might be going through something that they're just really not ready to talk about. And that's okay. You don't need
Mhm.
to rip that open, right? You can
Right.
say, let's just go on a walk, right? We live in an area, we have a golf cart, right? Let's just go on a golf cart ride. Just spending that time together. There was, one time, one of my daughters, you could tell there was just something eating her. And she was being really rude on the outside, which we could have reacted to that, but I knew something was happening under that, right?
Right.
And so we were actually driving. She was being rude to her sisters, and we got out of the car. We were actually traveling. And I said, okay, hold on, you're not going in yet. She's like, why? She's being all rude and very teenagery and all the things. And I was like, we need to talk about this. She goes, I don't want to talk about this. I have nothing to say. I was like, okay, well, we're just going to sit here and we're just going to sit side by side and I'll wait and it's okay. And so we sat in the driveway in the middle of the night and stared at the moon for what felt like probably 30, 35 minutes until she regulated and calmed down. And then she just started talking. Right. And so even if they aren't ready, just be patient in that waiting. Don't force it at all, because you're going to create, some animosity, some resentment, or they're going to say something they regret or they don't actually mean or what have you. So just be patient in there, but it's about being with them and making sure that they know, I hear you, I see you, I'm right here and I'm with you.
That's so well said. There's so many people out there who just don't know what to do, so they kind of do nothing. And
Yeah.
I know that's got to be really hard for the kids. And then the kids not really knowing what's going on either, or how to regulate their own emotions, because they're teenagers going through things, or whatever's happening with the pressures at school, or with their own life situations, whatever they're doing or going through it, academically or whatever, and they don't even know where they stand emotionally in a moment. And then some parents might be expecting them to like give it to me. So I
Yeah.
love the fact that you just say, hey, just sit there with them and just let them know I'm here and I'm ready when you are.
Yep. Yep.
It's great advice.
It's great too to help them figure out what their core values are. And when they are so young, they will change. Absolutely. Like my core values haven't changed in probably a decade and a half or so. But when they're young, of course, they're growing and they're understanding more and things, and they will change. But what you can do in these moments when they're having a hard time or they're giving someone else a hard time or what have you is remind them, is that in line with your core values? And each one of them will be different. And so in our house, we make sure I have a list on my phone, and we do it about once a year. Make sure, okay, these are what your 3 core values are. And we look at it like a fence around yourself, right? Nothing comes into you and nothing leaves you without going through your core value fence. And so, okay, is that in line? Okay, great. And if you question that as the parent, you're like, is that in line? Okay, why don't you explain to me how that's in line with your core values, right? Patience, adventuring, loving, caring, whatever, integrity. There's a beautiful list. If you just Google, you can get a list of core values, and you can go through, it together, or have them go through on their own, and just highlight all the ones that are catch their eye, seem interesting. And then typically many can fold into one another. And so, mine are integrity, faith, and wisdom. And family is very, very important to me, but family folds under so many, in fact, all 3 of those for me. Right. And so I can make sure that my fence that's around me, that nothing comes to me, unless it goes through, or nothing comes out of me, has all of those characteristics in it. And that's a really good tool to use with them too. And that's part of the esteem process, which is value and appreciation of self.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Wonderful. Wow, that's great. Just Google core values and then
Yeah.
get your kid to pick which ones they want to put the fence around themselves. I like that. That's very good. Very, very good advice. So earlier you mentioned, whenever you don't have that bottom tier of your cake, intact, that you might end up with things that are traumatic and dramatic, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays we see so much anxiety and depression and stuff amongst our young people and all people, regardless of age. What, do you think that maybe some of the tools that you have could help with some of that? Or how do you feel like when somebody already is experiencing this, they've already kind of moved past the point where they're not as young and transformable maybe, or haven't had those things instilled, but now a parent wants to take that on. What's some advice you can give to someone who's got a child who's already experiencing a little bit of the dramatic or traumatic things in their lives?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, if you look at the pillars, which I wrote about in my parenting book and in the part that I contributed there, but if you read through that right there, it goes through all 5 pillars of seen, heard, loved, belong, and purpose. But if you look at the opposite of all of those, I have yet to be proven or seen something that a young person, or I mean, a 65, 85, 105-year-old isn't struggling with that doesn't align with the opposite of one of those. So if I'm seen or I feel invisible, right? Or I'm heard or I feel like I'm not heard. I feel like I'm muted, right? Or I don't feel like I belong. I feel like I'm unloved and I feel like I have no purpose. What's the point? Usually those 5, a combination or one in particular, is the reason why somebody is experiencing that anxiety and depression and issues that they are having today. So if we bolster this, and I've worked with this, and it is so much easier to work with people in their first 65, 70. That's how many days are in 18 years. It is so much easier to work with somebody. You're dealing with a bunch of hormonal shifts and all of that. But like you said, their brain is a lot more malleable during that time than, say, a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old. But it's not impossible, right? We always have growing and pruning in our brains, and we can make new tracks, right? You can't teach an old dog new tricks is actually not true. You can. It's just a little bit more challenging. And you have to have a lot of intention with there. And so when you look at these, and they were written in the 40 scripts as well, in fact, broken up into these five areas. When you look at these and really put intention behind there and say, okay, how do I feel heard, right? When was the last time I truly felt heard? When was the last time I truly felt like I belonged somewhere? You can start really doing some self-discovery or working with your child to help them with some self-discovery in order to open this. And then when you do open these things, you will see a lot of those alarm bells of the anxiety and the sadness of the depression of not belonging or what have you start to diminish. So yes, absolutely. To answer your question, yes.
It's wonderful to know. And for everyone who's listening, if you have a teenager or a young person or somebody, a daughter who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, it doesn't matter, or a son, that there's always the chance to like rebuild that bridge and then help to get to the next step. How did you end up finding your way? I know that you mentioned that you grew up from a single mom, so did I. And then you kind of struggled through to get to where you are today. How did you end up bridging that gap? Who taught you?
No one, honestly, no one here anyway. So for me and my personal journey, it was when I opened the door to Christ in my 30s. And so that was when I was able to see my worth for the first time, my value for the first time. And people see me now and the work that I do and the stages or what have you that I speak on. I used to stand behind my husband and just be known as Brian's wife, and I was perfectly happy there. I did not want to be anywhere else. I was like, yep, it's just me. Okay. Don't look at me, and it really wasn't until later on when I was called to teach and help others and find my own worth and value that I was able to then find my own healing and get to that place where I can do what I do today.
Oh, that's just incredible. So no matter who you have around you, a lot of people say, well, I didn't have somebody to teach me, or I didn't have, the resources, or I think you're a prime example to show that you have everything that you need.
Yes.
You just have to open it up, open yourself up, and then you can, receive. So
Yes.
I love that. I love what you've shared today. What about your books? How obviously you go from like you said, standing behind your husband to being this author and speaker and all the incredible things you're doing. How did that happen? How did you end up being say, you know what, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I have always loved writing. And, it's so funny. When I was in high school, I got terrible marks in writing, but it was always because I was being spoon fed, like, you need to write on Shakespeare or this. And I was like, but when I got to college, I took a creative writing class as my English or what have you. And I had A pluses across the mark because I was finally writing about something I was passionate about and excited about. And that course really ignited my love for writing. And I have always I'm a visual person, so I love to write. I love to edit, my things and go through and make outlines, and that's just what I do. But I feel like in writing, you can get something, but have it with you all the time. If I go and I listen to someone on a stage, and which I do speaking too, but I leave so much of it behind. But if I have a book with me, I can highlight, I can, write notes in the margins and footnotes, and it's a mess. All of my books that I own are a mess, but in a glorious mess, if you will, because I have written and really taken it in, and I can go back and I can reread it, and I just really want people to be able to have that book. They always say, there's no book on parenting, or there's no book on this or that or the other. It's because it's for you to write, but you can, here's the framework that you can do that in. And that is, I don't know, it's my passion for writing.
Move on to my little give questions. Can you give
Okay.
the audience an example of a little thing that they can do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
Goodness, today especially, I just say be kind. And it sounds so, of course, whatever, but genuinely smile at the people that you're with, offer to help. And, when you see someone that is struggling, go over and see if there's anything that you can do, and just be a person with a genuine heart posture to serve and help those around you. I mean, no one was put here to make things more miserable. And so when we do, we go against our very nature, which causes discord within ourselves anyway. So go out there and be a positive force out in the world, whether that means, helping someone get their groceries in the car, opening a door for them, just a smile. And I was one of those people. I mean, this was probably, I don't know, a few years ago. And I was going through the store, and I guess I wasn't smiling. I didn't have this was before kids. So it was a while ago. And this one woman came up to me and she was like, honey, you just need to smile more. And I was like, okay. And I always remember that. And now I go around, I was like, of course I need to smile all the time, because, you never know what someone else is going through. So just be genuinely kind. In the littlest things, they make the biggest difference.
Oh, that's so true. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. A
Yeah.
smile is free, a kind gesture, a compliment, asking someone if you can help them, even if they say no. It costs nothing except for just a few minutes to really maybe make someone's day. And maybe they needed that compassion from you that day in that moment.
Yeah.
Happens more often than not whenever I'm having a rough day and someone will say, you know what, it's so good to see you today. Or, it's been a while, it's so great to see your smile. Or something's like, wow, okay. They acknowledge me, and now I feel like, okay, I feel good again. So it's something so simple that we can all do. I love that example.
Yeah.
Can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have just been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
When you ask that, I think the biggest example that comes to mind is, gosh, about 15 years ago, I was at someone's house, and we were staying with them in Chicago, and I had fallen asleep on the couch, but I was in that, in and out or what have you. And the gentleman that was there, he couldn't move around all that well. He had a lot of leg issues, but he got up when I was laying there on the couch, and I thought he was, going to do something, what have you. But he struggled to get up, and he came over and he laid a blanket over me. And it was just one of the sweetest things, and that I felt so, I undeserving of, that this person struggled to get up. He has leg issues, and he came over, he saw me, and he just laid a blanket over me. Right. And that moment has just really lived with me for so long. And he's since passed on. But, I don't know, that moment, and it was just a see me moment. And those come back to when you're walking around thinking about the, seen, heard, love, belong, and purpose. And, belonging, asking someone to be in a photo, if you're in a group of people, oh, come on, you get in here too, is a great way, that someone has helped me feel like I belong somewhere. Or what's your opinion? What do you think about this? Easy question. And you feel like your input matters. And so just thinking about these core pillars of worth and how you can feed that into someone today in the smallest ways that make the biggest impact. So
And how you can feed that into somebody else in the smallest ways to make the biggest impact. Beautiful. Well said. And, just that simple gesture he did, putting that blanket over you, was so simple and so small. But look, here you are on a TV show many years later, telling the story of how that really made an impact on you. And there's each and every one of us have opportunities like this every single day that we just pass by. So I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing that. What about a nonprofit? Do you have any nonprofits that you're excited about?
yes. So even here locally on the coast, we have this great nonprofit called Matthew's Ministry, and they are all about feeding the food insecure in our area. And I think they have just under 600 kids that they feed today. And it's just so beautiful because it's something as simple as food, and there's backpacks that are done and all of this, but you want someone to feel like they belong. And when they have something like food insecurity, or they can't afford a backpack or the school supplies or things like that, they can't focus on the mission at hand of, I'm going to have, build relationships at school, or I'm going to do, this in my math class or what have you, because they're stuck back here in insecurity. And so in order to help them feel like you belong here, we want you here, you are seen, heard, loved, belong, and you have great purpose that you're going to serve, I think this is a beautiful ministry.
It is so beautiful. So how did you come to know this nonprofit?
The woman that runs it is someone local here in town. She opened it in 2010, and she has been running it very successfully ever since. So
Yes. And I love nonprofits about food insecurity. And there's so many people that believe that this is a problem for another country and that we live in the United States and this isn't an issue here, but it is a huge issue. I grew up, super poor when I was young, and I didn't have food a lot of times. And so food insecurities happen every day right here in America. And so anybody who can support these is just, it's so necessary. So I'm so glad you decided tonight to highlight this nonprofit today.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you, they can learn more about you and all you do, and they can get those books?
Absolutely. So I love to keep things as simple as possible because the world is complicated. So if you go to my website, you can go under communities, the communities area there, and you can actually see where I am at on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest. You can email me straight from the website as well. And there's a place that you can connect with me, and there's resources on there as well as all of the books. So you can find all of that in the one-stop shop website that I have there.
Perfect. You made it easy for us. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. She told you exactly where you can find her. Go find out more. Learn how you can support the young people these days and all the ways that she's shown us today. And I know there's so many more resources available on her website. Also, go check out those books. You never know. They might really be able to help you and what you are growing through with your family. Also, that nonprofit was amazing. Everybody, if you found any interest in that nonprofit, please go to their website. Find out more. And if it's something you're passionate about, please go make a donation. $1 or $5 multiplied by everyone watching this show today can make a huge impact to this nonprofit and make sure that it really helps others not go with food insecurities. So thank you so much for being on today, Nellie. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been such an insight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for everybody out there who's watching, we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website. At littlegive.com, you'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, All of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.